about 10 minutes. You're going to listen to a couple things that I want you to hear, and then you're going to watch these guys too. They're going to put on a little skit for you, and then you're going to be able to react to it. But what I'm going to talk about is some values, some standards, a skill set that, as I told you up in the stands, has nothing to do with swinging the bat, throwing a ball, or fielding a ball. But it has everything to do on how you act as a person. Now, if there's one thing that we take a lot of pride in here as players and as a coaching staff, it is that. It's how to act as a person. Because in growing as a person, you become actually a better player. But most importantly, you become a great teammate. And I think as you move forward, many of you want to be good baseball players, but if you can spend as much time on trying to be a great teammate, the baseball part of this will happen for you. It naturally happens for you. And some kids don't understand that until they go through 3 or 4 years here at Vanderbilt. So what I'm about to tell you is something that's important to us, and I really feel it should be important to you. I'm going to tell this quick story, and I tell it every year. And the staff members who have been here before know exactly what I'm going to say. But when I was a recruiter at Clemson, and still actively go out now, I spend a lot of time coming down to the field well before the kids get to the field, watch them usually come out of the parking lot with their parents, take their equipment out, see how they handle their parents, and then get to the field, and I usually stand or sit somewhere close to the dugout so I can watch the kids and watch how they put on their equipment, how they communicate with their teammates, what they're actually doing before they get onto the field. I think that's important. So this particular day, I was at Clemson. Coach Leggett, the head coach, asked me to go watch this kid. This kid was a very good player. He ended up playing in the big league. But this kid that I went to see, Coach Leggett, all he wanted me to do was to determine how much scholarship that we should offer. We already knew that he was a good player. We knew he could hit, we knew he could field, we knew he could do a lot of things. So I happened to go to a tournament game, and I came down, watched him operate. The first thing I noticed is when he got into the dugout, he completely separated himself from the rest of the team. The rest of the team was putting on their cleats and putting on their equipment here. He was by himself. So there was no communication or no engagement with his teammates. That was number one. Did I think that was weird? I didn't know. I was just watching, so I was trying to get a feel for it. In retrospect, yes, I thought it was a little bit different. As the day progressed, I could see that he was working with his teammates, but there wasn't a lot of communication. It looked like he was on his own plan. As the game got going, stood right there, and midway through the game, he looked up into the stands and pointed to his mother, and he made this gesture right here. He just said, basically what he was telling us, I'm thirsty. I need something to drink. Well, that in itself is weird to me because there's drinks in the bench. There's water. There might not be Gatorade, but there's some form of liquid in the dugout. For me, as a coach, for a player to look up into his stands and just tell his mother to come down, that he was thirsty, I needed a drink, that was a little bit different too. But you know what she did? She came down. Probably made the situation worse. She comes down to the field, and let's just say this is the Gatorade. She reaches over the fence while he's in the on-deck circle. He grabs it, takes a sip, and then he gives it back to her. But this is how he gave it back to her. He threw it right down at her feet, and then he turned around and walked away. I was right there. He didn't know I was there. There was no thank you. There was no you're welcome. There was no nothing. There was no conversation. It was, I'm thirsty. I need a drink. Give it to me. Here it is. That's it. I watched the end of the game, went home, got on the phone with Coach Leggett. He said, how'd the game go? It's going pretty good. He said, Corbs, tell me about him. Is he a good player? I said, he's a heck of a player. He's a real good player. He says, good. How much should we offer him? I said, nothing. Nothing. He said, no, come on. How much should we offer him? I go, you don't want to offer him anything. You do not want him in your baseball program here at Clemson. He said, he's a good player, right? And I explained the incident. He says, don't you think you're reaching? Don't you think you're taking that a little bit too far? I said, no. I said, you know something? I said, that's his mother. He loves his mother. If he can do that to his mother, he can do anything to you, and he can do anything to me. He'll have no respect for what's going on around here. You never recruited that kid. That kid went to a nearby school. The school that he went to never got to a regional, never got to a super regional, never got to Omaha. He was in the big leagues for bits and pieces of 6 years. You know how many different teams he was with? 7. 7. That's not a coincidence. That means there's a flaw. That means there's something wrong. That means there's a character trait that is missing. So this all goes back to what type of person that you want to be in order to be a good baseball player. What we're going to do right here with these guys is we're just going to show you a couple incidences. We call this the game inside the game. And these are just things that happen inside the game of baseball that people see all the time, but they don't recognize them. They don't necessarily think they matter, but they do matter. Because what they do is they show the energy and the fabric of your team. And most importantly, they show the character traits of the kids on your team. If you've got the name of a team across your chest, you are representing that team. In this case right here, in our case, we're representing the university. So anyone who's sitting up in those stands right there that comes to watch us play, yeah, they might be interested in the scoreboard, and they might be interested in the fact that we win or lose, but the most interesting thing to them, in a lot of cases, is how we act. Okay, now I'm going to need your help. Every time you see something that's really good, I want you to clap for it. Every time you see something that you don't think looks very good, and is an example of bad sportsmanship, or bad behavior, or poor body language, I want you to boo. And I want you